Hello, lovely people. It's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery living room. Not in the sewing room today. The light is so lovely up here. It's sunny outside and it's just, I don't know, I like the natural daylight sometimes. And I have this really fun kind of beanbag chair to sit in right in front of my wacky 70s themed quilt. It's not a beanbag chair, really. It's a massive crocheted sack that is stuffed with all my body pillows and least used blankets and things. So it makes a lovely big squishy chair that doesn't get used very often. It just really gets in the way in the living room, but I like it too much to put it away again. So I'm going to make the most of it today. And we're going to use it. I have no idea if I used a pattern for that. I probably did. Maybe I'll have to take a look at my Ravelry project page for that from years ago and see what I did to make that, whether I followed some instructions or not. Came out way too big, really, but it's usable. So how are you? Last week, I let you know that my mum had just died, and I am getting used to it gradually. I still woke up this morning and thought, oh, it's Saturday, I could call my mum. Oh, no, I can't. Yep. I had a good long conversation with my sister on Tuesday morning. We had a video chat for an hour. She had already met with the funeral director at that point, and so we just had some decisions to make about things relating to the cremation and the service and all that sort of thing. And we're going to be having another video chat with the Reverend somebody, can't remember his name now, who is going to be leading the service at the crematorium in April. So my sister wanted me to be there for that, so I am going to be there virtually because I can't be there physically. We have booked the flights, so mid-April we are going back to the island of Jersey where we grew up so that we can spend time. There's a funeral, obviously. There's going to be an interment, is that the right word? An interment of the ashes in the family grave in a cemetery there. And there's going to be lots of memories and lots of laughter and lots of tears and lots of visiting with people who we don't get to see often enough. So that'll be nice. I got a lovely bouquet of flowers today. I wasn't expecting anything, but I got a phone call today. And it's funny because whenever my phone rings, my cell phone rings with a number that I don't recognize, I just ignore it and I wait and see if they leave a voicemail. And the funny thing was, it turns out it was a phone call that I would have liked to have picked up, and I had to call them back. They were a florist, a local florist, who were hoping to deliver some flowers to me today and wanted to find out whether it was a good day to do it, and if I wasn't there, whether they should leave them at the door. So I got a beautiful bouquet of roses and various other beautiful things from some friends of ours with their condolences. So I'm grateful for those. I don't think they watch this vlog, but I'm thankful for those because they will brighten up my dining room table, and I can think of Mum every time I look at them. So what else? After I spoke to you last week, I did a little bit more sewing. I was talking about making disappearing 9 patches last week and the week before, for that matter. And what I decided to do with one of the blocks was to make a dust cover for my serger. I do have somewhere an ugly plastic cover for my serger that came with it when I bought it secondhand. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice just to have something pretty to go over it instead? So let's see, which was the thing you've already seen? I think you already saw this block that I made. And then I went and made another one with some similar fabrics. There's a little bit of duplication there, like that skull fabric on that side is also in this one. And then I added a panel of that orange spool fabric down the middle so that it was big enough to drape over my serger for all the way from back all the way over the top to the front. Once I had pushed down the metal thing that you pull up for all the threads to come through, it kind of telescopes up and down. So when it's down, obviously I can put this on there, and I just backed it really simply with some broadcloth. And this broadcloth's been in the stash a while. I think it was something I got for free in a job lot of fabrics from a friend of a friend. There was this person who died, and her husband was getting rid of her craft materials, and my friend got a hold of a lot of them and offered me first a rummage through everything. So I think that's where that came from, because I don't normally buy broadcloth. It's polyester cotton, and I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to quilting, so I tend to buy only 100% cotton. And I don't really have a need for broadcloth as a rule, but that worked well for that because it was cheap and easy. And yeah, now I have that to drape over my serger. And I thought that was a good way to use up one of the blocks that I had played with just to learn how to do the disappearing 9 patch. So that was fun. Another thing I did was I made a little zipper pouch. I've got everything on the floor here, so I'm like working from right to left. I've got everything except for the flowers, which were out of order. But I'm working from right to left with all the things I want to talk about. They're all on the carpet here. The other thing I did was I took a block. It was the one that I did last week where I showed you that I had cut the corners off a 9 patch block and then realized that if I just rearrange the corners, it was going to look exactly the same because it was so uniform. I had used only 2 kinds of fabric in the block, which was really dumb. But anyway, so I took a piece of that. This is what I made. This is the center of the block. So if you imagine this opened out, hang on a minute. So if you imagine this opened out, there's the center of the block. And this is the block that it was like the middle part without the corners of the disappearing, or not the disappearing 9 patch, the 9 patch. Because as I say, I messed up the cutting and rearranging of this because I thought I'd be clever, and it turned out not to be clever. So I really love the fabric with the scooters and the roses and the bicycles on. Of course, they're a bit upside down on one side. Where are they? Yeah, that one's a bit upside down, but it doesn't matter. I used a number 3 zip from the stash. I've hardly got any number 3 zips left. Since I bought the 10 yards of rainbow zipper tape with the pulls separate, and then the plain black with the silver teeth with even more pulls, I've barely used number 3 zippers at all. But they're good for little odds and ends when I'm, it's not something special. I'm just using up my zips when I can. And the lining is that kind of a green and yellow pattern. I bought a lot of this pattern at Fabricland when it was going on sale. Can't remember if it was on clearance or on sale. May have been clearance. There were tons of these because they were all different colors. This circular pattern, they had pinks and blues and purples and greens and everything. So I got a few of them because they make really good linings. I can't remember whether I interfaced this. I don't think I did. It doesn't feel like I did. Not sure. I can't remember now. But yeah, that'll be a handy little pouch for something, sometime. Don't know when, don't know where. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when. Oh, I think last time I showed you that I had started crocheting a cozy for my hot water bottle. Now, I actually have quite a few hot water bottles. I've had them for a really long time. I think I've got a couple in the cupboard under the sink in the kitchen and another couple under the sink in my bathroom. And whenever I pull them out, it's been so long since I've used them that I have to check they haven't perished and they're not going to leak all over my bed. But this is my favorite one. It's a very, very boring sort of cream color. And so this is what I was using as my guide for sizing. And I didn't actually block this or anything, and it was looking really wavy last week. If you were here last week, you'll have seen a very, very messy, crappy looking bit of crochet. But just finishing this and then putting it on the hot water ball, it looks a lot better. So I just made 2 panels. I had the 4 shades of Drops Muscat, yes, which I had bought from my local yarn store a really long time ago because I wanted to buy something from there. And at the time, I had told myself that I needed to go on a bit of a yarn diet, but anything that had some plant content was okay, and I should not buy anything that was 100% acrylic. So I limited myself. So that year, I bought a few yarns, and they were mostly cotton or cotton blends. The trouble with that was, yes, it made me more mindful about my purchases, but I ended up buying some yarns that I didn't really love using. Yeah. And so they sat in my stash for a really, really, really long time. I find cotton is a little tough on the hands sometimes. This is fine. This is not what I call a dishcloth cotton. It's a mercerized cotton. It is a bit splitty. There's a lot of strands to it. And, Drops yarns are very inexpensive. I see them listed on woolwarehouse.co.uk all the time. And there's some that are only like £1 a ball. £1.20 a ball, currently on sale for 75p. And obviously I have to do the conversion to Canadian dollars, but still super cheap. But yeah, of the Drops yarns I've used, my impression is not that it's something I'd want to buy a lot of. So this is finished. Both sides are the same. It was just a C2C, which I think is also called a box stitch or something like that. And I just started down at this corner and, worked up across, doing the increasing, decreasing as appropriate. And then I put a couple of buttons. I sewed them in here on the inside of the back. And because the C2C has so many of these little slots between the stitches, it's like it's got a billion buttonholes all built in, ready to be used. So yeah, you don't have to make a special buttonhole or anything. So that's awesome. I mean, I know we're getting into the spring now, and there's a chance that I won't be using this for quite some time, but it's ready for when I want it. So that's good. Seeing as we're talking about crochet, let's talk about the other little bit of crochet I've been doing. So I'm going to get my notebook ready because I'm using 7 colours in this, and I know I won't remember all of them if I don't refer to my notes. One of the things I wanted to do with this, my mum being on my mind so much, and me being a little sad right now, I wanted to have something comforting to work on, something that didn't require a lot of thought, something that used more stash yarn, which is getting satisfyingly low, I have to say. So what I decided to do was use my Lion Brand Heartland, which, as you know, it's kind of become my favourite yarn lately. I have made a few things with it now, and I really like it. And I just pulled out everything and I put back the black and grey. I'm not really sure buying a ball of black and ball of grey was a good idea, but I'll figure out how to use those later. But the other 7 colours I had, I pulled them out and I decided to make something that's been in my Ravelry queue for a little bit. And it's called the Granny Wrap by Annaboo's House. And it's basically just a massive granny stitch triangle shawl, which she models the way I wear my shawls, you know, put the V at the front, wrap it, and then wrap it, the tails to the front. And hers is massive. It's with bulky yarn, and it comes down probably past her waist because it really is huge. Mine is going to be worsted weight yarn, so not quite as bulky. I did have an idea to give this to my sister. She probably doesn't watch this vlog, so I think I'm safe in saying that. I was thinking I might take a suitcase on holiday this time rather than just my cabin backpack. But that was when I was thinking that they had changed the rules about cabin baggage. And actually, it looks like the airlines we're using, they may be okay with us doing what we normally do, which is taking a cabin max bag. It's literally called cabin max because my bag is exactly the right measurements to take on board and to put in the overhead compartment. It is regulation size. And then I usually take a handbag as well, or a small backpack, just something really little that again fits into the regulation size. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute, if they're changing the rules, then maybe I'll take one bag with just my handbag and maybe a small yarn project, and then pack everything else in the suitcase. So that means I could take a bulky shawl and give it to my sister, and then I'd have room if I wanted to bring something back with me. But that plan may have been scuppered. I'm not sure yet. So we're not going for a good couple of weeks yet, so I will see how it goes. So this is my progress so far. I think the colours are absolutely lovely together. So let me see. The colours are... Oh, I'm getting warm. It's so warm up here, and now I'm having a hot flash. Okay, what was I saying? So the purple, I'm using the 7 colours in the same order. So I'm just got them lined up on the floor next to my couch, and I'm just picking them up one by one in the same order each time. So the purple there is called Kobuk Valley. I think I knocked the microphone then. Gold is Canyonlands. That's this one. And then we've got blue, which is Olympic. That's an absolutely gorgeous blue. I think that's definitely one of the favorites. And then the rust color, which I also love, is Yosemite. And the red is Redwood. And then what else we got? Oh, I missed the green. The green is Rocky Mountains. And the turquoise is Glacier Bay, which is that one there. So that is just a couple of days progress, maybe 3 days I've been working on that possibly. And I've not been rushing it, but it's just so satisfying to work on. And yes, it's taking, it's going to be a lot of weaving in it. It's going to be a lot of weaving in, but that's okay because I actually don't mind weaving ends in. I'll just put some good Netflix or BritBox on and I'll just get on with it. And then I think because by the time I've woven those ends in, things might look a little lumpy. I'll probably do a row of stitching, maybe single crochet across the top there, but maybe with a bigger hook size so it doesn't pull it in any, because I don't want it to be tight. So yeah, I think the size I should, if I hold it out, like this all the way with my arm outstretched, it already comes to the middle of my body. So I would think that ideally it would be double that width by the time I was finished. I think it's going to be pretty large. I do have plenty of each color. Obviously, if one of the colors runs out, that might dictate when I finish the shawl, but we'll see. But right now I'm really enjoying that. So let's talk a little bit about the reading. I've been on a bit of a Jodie Picoult jag, as you may know. So this book here is called A Spark of the Light. And I finished this one shortly after I spoke to you last week. Now, it's a little distressing in places, I have to be honest. The subject matter could be a bit of a trigger for some people. It is about a clinic where women can go to get birth control, or they can go to be counselled about abortions or have abortions. And it's in, I think, Mississippi. And so there's one clinic for the whole state. And so they're very overworked. And they have the people outside who are the pro-life activists, just like we actually have at our local hospital every Tuesday. They are there too. And so it actually really makes you think. Even if you were firmly in one camp or another, this would make you think and actually feel empathy, I think, towards the other side. Because she writes so well. She obviously interviewed a lot of people for this book. And she researches her subject matter so well, this author. I'm just blown away by how detailed her books are and how thorough they are in their research. But basically, there's a gunman who goes into this clinic and holds the women in there as hostages. And so it's all one day, and it's, for some reason, it's told in reverse order. So it starts later in the afternoon and then goes back by an hour for each chapter. Interesting way to write a book. But yes, because a lot of it is told from, it's told from the different perspective of a lot of the characters in the book, like the policeman who's outside being the hostage negotiator. His daughter is inside because she had gone to get contraception. The doctor who actually does the surgeries, the women who are in the waiting room, one of whom actually went in there as an undercover pro-lifer and was trying to get more information. And so it's, yeah, like I say, it really makes you think, but there's a lot of detail involved. There is a particularly descriptive part where they're talking about an abortion and what happens during, like what he's doing during it. And so, yeah, it could be really triggering for people. And yeah, kind of made me go, ugh, I didn't like the sound of that. But I don't know. I think it's important subject matter, and it's important to have people writing about this sort of thing because, yeah, I think it would open a lot of people's minds, and maybe each side, which feels really polarized, maybe would be able to realize there's a lot of, it's like that yin yang thing, isn't it? So you know that yin yang thing with the black and white and the curved line, and then there's a little bit of black in the white and a little bit of white in the black. I think it's like that. So if you were a staunch pro-lifer, you could maybe see something you recognized and empathized with in the pro-choice person, and vice versa. It's getting very deep, isn't it? Let's move on from that. The next book I read, I grabbed a couple of other books at the library last time I was there, just shorter, way shorter novels. This one is called Good Girl, and it's by someone called Mel Sherratt. It's funny how you go from one author style to another, and it's just so jarring, the difference. Completely different. This one is based in England. This woman is a British author. And it's about two girls who are absolute best friends basically from the time they were little, because their mums were best friends and neighbours, and they just did everything together. And one night, one of them gets stabbed in a dark alleyway. And so all of it is about what the police did to investigate who attacked her. And yeah, I won't give any more information out than that, because obviously I don't want to spoil it for anyone who wants to read it. But yeah, it was interesting, but again, so much different from Jodi Picoult, that I feel sometimes that when you've read a book that really drew you in, you should maybe have a little waiting period before you start the next book. Because it's like if you're watching Netflix, right, and you've just finished a really good series, and it comes to the last chapter or the last episode in the last season, and you don't just, okay, switch the TV off, I'll give it a couple of days before I start a new season of something, but instead you go straight into something else, and it's just like, wait a second, I feel like you need to take some time to process things sometimes. Yeah. It was all right, but not enough that I would want to read more of her stuff. Apparently, she's a really, really popular author. She's written tons of books. She's very well known in the UK, apparently. But yeah, I'm just not encouraged to read any more of her books. And then the other one I have just started is by someone called Peter Robinson. It says an Inspector Banks novel, Wednesday's Child. By the way, you have to look at my bookmark. Look at my sock monkey bookmark. Isn't it fun? It says, I love a good yarn. I'm not sure where I got that from, but it's hilarious. So how does this one? This one starts with a 7-year-old child having been abducted by two people who came to the parents' house, or the mum's house, I should say. Two people, a man and a woman, came to the house of this woman and child, and they posed as social workers, and they said that they needed to check her welfare. Maybe they said they'd had reports of maybe some sort of neglect or something, and they took her away. And the woman, obviously respecting authority, didn't question it, and they took this girl away. And so now we're just starting out here on a police investigation to find out who the heck they were and what they've done with her. So yeah, maybe I should choose a happier story next time. Yeah, I don't know about this. I seem to be too deep into crime dramas lately, and sometimes it gets a little much, doesn't it? So yeah, if you've got any good recommendations for some books that are not all doom and gloom, but not just fluff romance novels. Like I don't mind it if it's a non-standard romance novel that maybe keeps you guessing till the end, or is not just your standard boy meets girl, kind of attracted, kind of not, on again, off again, have a row, get back together again, have a row, end up together. You know, that's just too much of a formula. So if you know of any good novels that are fun or amusing or romantic but not in a Hallmark way, let me know. Okay, I think I've just got the one more thing to talk about, but it was a fun day I had yesterday. So my friend Jane, the one with the rats, I've talked about her before. She and I share a pattern for sewing. Actually, we share so many similar interests. We get on so well, and I love her and appreciate her very much. And yesterday we had a sewing day at her house because we decided that we'd make some more bags for this organization that helps disadvantaged women by letting them shop in a kind of consignment store environment, but it's not a consignment store. Obviously, they've got all these clothes which are either new or maybe gently used. I'm not sure, but these women go there and they get dressed or they get given clothes that they can wear for interviews and things. So it gives them a step up to getting a job. And so what they always do with these women, they're looking for 200 bags again this year, and they always give them the clothes to take home in a lovely big tote bag. Now, last year, there were 4 or 5 of us, I can't remember, had a sewing day at my house, and we made a bunch of bags at that time, and I was able to drop them off to the organization that organizes all this stuff for these women. And this time I went to her place and we did 3 bags each to give away, and then 1 bag each for ourselves. I looked through my stash before I went. Packing my sewing stuff was easy. I have this amazingly handy sewing machine carrying bag that holds my machine plus most of what I need for a sewing day at a friend's place. But I was just not sure what I was going to take fabric-wise. So I ended up taking a whole bunch of oddments of vinyl. When I was at Fabricland, I used to pick up all sorts of remnants. And sometimes they were damaged, or the dye job wasn't good, or for whatever reason, right? There could be a big hole in the middle, and I thought, oh, I'll take it home for free and then just try and use up what's around the hole. So I've still got quite a bit of vinyl offcuts or ends of roll. So I took those with me. I also took an upholstery fabric, but I didn't end up using it. So I'll just get on and show you. The organization gives out measurements as to what they want the bags to be. And so we had a template that I think was 20 inches wide by, can't remember how tall now, maybe 20 inches wide by about 19 inches tall, perhaps. And then another little template for the boxy bottom. And the vinyl bags are so easy because they don't have to be lined, and you don't have to worry about fraying seams. So this is one of the bags. It's a very unexciting grey vinyl. And I used black webbing. It's a lovely soft webbing. I really, really like this webbing. There are 2 kinds. Well, there are 2 kinds. If you go to a Fabricland in Canada, there are a couple of different kinds of webbing. One is nylon, and it's very, very, very sturdy, but also kind of hard and unforgiving. And, you know, if you were to carry a bag on your shoulder for any length of time, it could rub and it might not be very comfortable. Whereas this polyester webbing, can't even say it, polyester webbing, it's much softer, and it comes in much more fun colours, in my opinion. So yeah, all I did was cut the 2 pieces of vinyl out, and then you just got to sew the side seams and the bottom seam, and I just did a half-inch seam allowance. Yeah, half-inch seam allowance. And then I cut the handles 24 inches long, and then I just attach them to the outside of the bag so the raw edges match. And then when you fold and fold, the webbing gets well and truly hidden in the hemline there. And so it's well sewn in multiple times. and the raw ends are well tucked away. And then lastly, I fold it back up and then I add another little bit of stitching. So it should be super sturdy. Not all vinyls are suitable for the back to be seen, admittedly. The 3 I used for these bags but the one I made for myself, I had to line it. I was going to line it anyway, but I had to line it. This has actually got a very nice soft backing to it, and I think it'll be fine, just as is, without the lining. Another bag was just this blue one. This is a really nice, what would you call this? A floppy vinyl. It's not stiff at all. It's got a lovely feel to it. It's very drapey almost. And I made this exactly the same way. And this also has a lovely backing. It's almost fluffier than the other one. It's got a little bit of a pile to it almost. And so it looks great. It didn't need to be lined either. And that's my second one. And then the third one, now this vinyl, I absolutely love it. I actually bought it to make myself something, and I don't think I've actually made myself anything out of it at all. I made a couple of things out of it for the market last summer. I think I made a couple of little triangle bags, maybe some dog poop bags, and I can't remember what else. But I'm pretty sure that I made one of these tote bags for this organization out of this exact stuff last year. Isn't it awesome? That vinyl has the best pattern on it. It's kind of abstract and modern, but it sort of makes you think of something like, I don't know, New York traffic, graffiti, I don't know what, but there's something about it that's just so cool. And again, this just has a plain backing. There's no writing on it, so it was perfect just to do it unlined. My friend was saying, oh, I think you should keep that one for yourself. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to, but I really don't need to. And I had already had plans for a specific one to make with some different vinyl. So those are the 3 I'm donating. I probably have also already put at the beginning of this video a little clip showing you the bags my friend made and the setup we had at her house. She's in a beautiful location. She's only about 10 minutes from my house, but she's closer to the lake and she has a beautiful view. And we were at her dining room table and it was such a lovely place to be. And the Yorkshire tea flowed freely. She's the sort of person who, as soon as the teapot's empty, makes another one. So, we had a lot of tea. And she had made a really tasty vegan chili. And, I had toasted homemade sourdough bread with it. It's like, wow, I'll come back again next week. Thank you very much. So, yeah, it was great. And in the little bit of video, you might see at the very beginning of the little bit of video in her dining room, her rat cage is in the corner. And finally, chat. I made this one for myself because I love lime green. Oh, look, I'm wearing lime green today. This scarf has most of my perfectly favorite colors in it. It's got lime, orange, pink, and turquoise. Orange is not one of my favorite colors, but the other 3 are. Yeah. Hopefully I'm not making the microphone go scratchy on you. So, look at this. Lime green vinyl. Looking a little squashed because when I got home yesterday, I just dumped everything on my sewing room floor and then just came up and helped make dinner. So, it was pizza night last night, so it was a communal affair again. Look at the color of that. Isn't it so awesome? And even the webbing is lime green. On this one, I made the straps a couple of inches longer because I wanted it to be able to put it over my shoulder and not have it too high up close to my armpit. And this was really dirty on the back. It was very stained. It looked like someone had put it on the floor and trampled on it. And it had the manufacturer's stamping all over the back of it. So not only was it really dirty looking, but it was stamped on, written on, you name it. Stamped, by which I mean like, you know, a rubber stamp type thing. So not just stamped on with feet, but stamped on with like a printing thing. You know what I mean, right? At the last minute, I put in a magnetic thingammy-doof, magnetic snap. I had not taken any magnetic snaps to my friend's house, but she gave me one of hers. Now, if I had been a silver one, I probably would have added some other silver accessories, like D-rings or rivets or something, but I didn't have any more of the bronze stuff. I think I do here, but of course I didn't want to go using all her supplies. This fabric is so fun. It's like lots of little seed heads. Look at that. Isn't that fun? It's got flowers and seed heads in turquoise and lime and olive, and a little bit of white in there, a bit of yellow. Yeah. And so I put a pocket on this side, which, good grief, Nicola, you're struggling here, aren't you? So the pocket on this side is huge, and I divided it into two, because I made it about 12 inches wide and about 7 inches deep. So I divided it down the middle so I could fit things in there without it being too gapey. And then on the other side, I divided it down the middle, but I also added another little channel just here so you could put a pen in there or something like that. So it's a little more functional because, you know, this, as I say, this one was supposed to be for me, is supposed to be for me. I can't see myself giving it away because I love it. And the cool thing is I have a little bit more of this vinyl and a little bit more of that quilt cotton as well. Didn't bother with any interfacing or anything. So it was really straightforward. It's just as well I had a meter of that lining fabric because I used most of it in there, what with the two pieces for the lining and then the huge two pieces for the pockets. Because, of course, the pocket pieces that you see are actually double thick. So, yeah, that was a lot. So I'm really excited about that. The only thing I wish I had thought, you know, this was the last bag of the day. And it was getting to the middle of the afternoon. And I didn't want to impose my presence and outstay my welcome and be there really, really late. But if I had given it a little bit more thought, I might have come up with some way of embellishing this or add a decorative pocket on the front before I assembled everything. I still could add something, even if I was to add a little sort of dangly extra thing here, like a key fob, which I could make with some of the spare webbing and maybe a little bit of the spare fabric and a D-ring or something. I could clip my keys to it and it could hang on the outside or hang on the inside. I may do that. But what I also am thinking of doing with the bits that are left is making a small crossbody bag so that I could put the crossbody bag inside this along with a yarn project and have that as my going on the plain bag, and it would have everything in it I needed. But I'm not sure if my plans are going to come to fruition about that, because we might end up just going back to what we normally do and using the cabin bags after all, and not checking bags in. I don't like the idea of checking bags in. Sometimes they do get lost, sometimes they get damaged. But the most important concern of mine is that we are taking 3 flights to get there and 3 flights to get back. it's always the way. We have to fly either to Vancouver or Calgary first. Then we have the long haul flight to Heathrow, London, London Heathrow in England. And then we have the short haul flight again to Jersey. And on the way there is a teeny tiny window between the long haul flight arriving and the last flight leaving. And there's a very strong chance we won't make it. But I'm not going to let it stress me out, because there is a second flight later on in the evening that we could take if we missed the earlier one. And because we're using the same airline for the big flight and the small flight, they will just bump us, hopefully, from that flight to the later one if we don't make it. In all of these years of traveling back to see the family, there's only been one time when we didn't make a flight. We had all the kids with us because they were quite young at the time, and we actually had to buy new tickets to do that last leg. But I think every other time we've been okay. There have been delays, but the only time we had to buy fresh tickets was that one time. And I can't remember why. But it could have been that we were coming in on, say, Air Canada, and then we were flying British Airways. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But thankfully, the family stepped in and they said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll get you some tickets. Just be in the right place at the right time, and we'll make sure you have another flight to get on." So that was good. Well, I think that was all I was going to talk to you about today. Let me just check my notes. It's been a beautiful sunny day today, as I think I mentioned. We went out and took all the stuff to the recycling depot, and then we went for a lovely long walk along the waterfront. And the wind was still cold, but the sun was out. I started out with one of those sort of padded vests, body warmers. Back in the day, I think we used to call them gilets. And on the way back, I was able to start peeling off the scarf and peeling off the vest as well, because I was warming up. But yeah, the wind coming off the lake was quite chilly at times. But it was lovely to see so many people out enjoying the sunshine, and kids enjoying the playgrounds, and signs of life coming up out of the ground. You know, we've got daffodils coming up. We've got trees budding with all sorts of things, and it's looking lovely. We've got some, what were they? Passion flowers coming out in our backyard there, and that little bed just behind the house where it's really sheltered and it gets a lot of sun. I just hope that Mr. Stitches remembers to cover them with something before the deer eat the blossoms off them. Because this is the challenge at the moment. It didn't used to be as much of a challenge, but lately it seems to be that we are definitely competing with the deer more than we ever were. I don't begrudge them nourishing themselves, but I think if we want to keep anything nice out there, we've got to put some chicken wire over it or something. There's just one bit of damage that I'm a little bit pissed off about, and that is that last year we bought some trees from the city. They offered a really good deal if you wanted to order trees ahead of time, and we put in these 2 lilac trees down the side of the house because one of the reasons was that the neighbours had taken down a massive pine tree that was shading our house at the end of a hot day in the summer. And it was a huge loss for us. We were really, really sad that had come down. And so we thought, plant more trees down that side, and then we'll hopefully have them grow big and give us some more shade and a little bit more screening. And then in the fall, there was some damage to the trunk, and we realized that what had happened was some young deer with their little antlers were coming, and they were rubbing the trunk of the tree with their antlers. And they had peeled some of the bark off. And we tried wrapping the tree trunks with some burlap to keep them from doing that. But in the end, one of the trees had bark off the trunk all the way around in one area, and that's devastating to a tree. Apparently, if it loses all the bark all the way around, there's no way for the nutrition to get up the tree. And we've noticed that whilst one of them is looking like the signs of life and new leaves coming out and everything, the other one doesn't have that. So that was a bit of a waste of money, really. So being the optimistic types that we are, we're getting more trees this year, and we're going to have to be extra careful about protecting them so that doesn't happen again. Oh well. Well, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here and watching, and thank you all for the wonderful comments you left last week, all the sympathy and condolences for my mum, so thank you. And I will see you again soon when I've got more stuff to talk about. Probably next weekend, because that seems to be the sort of pattern I've fallen into right now, because my shifts have mostly fallen on weekdays, and so weekends I've got the time to do the recording and the editing and the uploading. So I'll probably see you again next weekend. Thanks so much, and see you soon.